Mulligan Hall, Chicago Sports Radio 6-7 to the score. Zach Zaidman filling in for David this morning, and we have Dan Wiederer on the Signature Bank Score Hotline. Signature Bank, making commercial banking personal. Dan, good morning. How are you?
The party continues, boys. The party continues. Justin Fields, NFC Offensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, off a loss, Dan. That tells you how great he was, that he's honored as the NFC Player of the Week despite the result of the game.
Yeah, and you guys can do the research on this. You have to go back and look and see if there's ever been an NFC Offensive Player of the Week that hasn't gone on to win the Super Bowl, right? And so we got to put that. I'm kidding, obviously.
Oh my God! I thought, we talked to Mike Florio yesterday, and he was like, "Hey, there's a playoff spot available. Don't be surprised if the Bears make a run at the playoffs." And I was kind of like, Mike, have you seen the front seven?
Yeah, right.
It just seems like that might be a reach, but. Look, I think they got a really good chance against the Detroit Lions, and I think that Dan Campbell's winless on the road still. So this is a pretty good opportunity to kind of double down, right?
Well, and Molly, the best opportunity is it comes against a passing defense that should allow you to throw the ball, right? And that's what the next step is here for Justin Fields in this offense, is proving that you can consistently win games or move the ball or score points by mixing in passing offense, right? I mean, they're still last in the NFL by a country mile in passing yardage, and so you just want to add that, right? That's got to be the next step in the evolution of this offense, and we'll see if they can get it done against a Lions defense that's vulnerable in that regard.
It's such a pleasure to be able to talk to you. Welcome aboard. Here's what I want to know: the Bears run the football better than most, right?
Yeah,
and they've got this quarterback who is doing things with his legs that we have rarely seen in NFL history. How is it that the passing game looks as poor as it does, given how good they are at running the ball?
ZZ, it's a good question, because I think what we need to kind of watch in the evolution of these last 2 months is now how you play off of this, right? Like how you go about using your play action game, how about you go about using the adjustments that defenses have had to make to account for Justin with spies or other coverages that allow you to have windows in a passing game that are there for you. And Justin has to take this onus on himself to make sure that this becomes part of his game and he doesn't get overly reliant on using his legs, which are obviously electric. And we saw that Sunday afternoon to be the only weapon that they have. Now, listen, he threw 3 touchdown passes the other day and made some high-level throws and some high-level reads. You just want to see that more consistently in each quarter of each game. And look, like I took some flack for it after the game, obviously, but I thought the last 2 drives Sunday left a little bit to be desired. And I was really refreshed on Monday afternoon for Cole Kmet to basically say, look, that's the next step for us, right? Like, to be a championship team in this league, that's what the NFL is. You have to go in 2-minute situations and a half and a game when you're down or tied and put together drives that win you games. And they missed the chance to put the punctuation on a really, really impressive day. And so that's part of this ongoing evolution and discussion that they have to keep their focus on.
It's fascinating, Dan, because I think that when we look at what Fields has accomplished, we had this conversation earlier about who would you take, Tua, or would you take Justin Fields at this point? And Dustin, in his wisdom, said that they'd be 7-1 in Miami if Justin Fields were the quarterback. I don't agree with that, because I think it takes a little time to figure out how to use him. Now that you have an idea of how to use him, maybe they would be. But I think that if I'm not mistaken, they tried to get Tom Brady. That's why they lost a draft pick or 2.
Right.
So they're looking for a guy that can throw the ball and let the receivers go, and Justin can more run the ball. He's got a great arm. I mean, he could throw the ball deeper than Tua, but I don't know about that one.
Look, it's not fun to do the practical thing here, right? And the practical thing here is to keep an electric fence around the party that we're holding for Justin Fields this week, right? And make sure that people aren't running 3 and 5 yards over and messing up the neighbors' yards, right? Because look, like, I think we can all agree that there were some really, really big time moments in Sunday's game for Justin Fields. And now it's a matter of how far are you willing to go with your conclusion, right? And I think we've all heard some conclusions this week that we'd agree with, and then we've heard some conclusions this week that we'd say, all right, let's rein it in just a little bit, right? Like, playing quarterback at a high level in the NFL, it's about consistency. And a 3-week stretch is really encouraging, and it's been really energizing, and it's really undeniable. But people are so eager, particularly in this town, to rush 10 and 11 steps ahead and think that this is the definitive answer, and we've solved it. We saw what he did for 3 weeks. And now it's, you don't have to worry about the quarterback position any longer. Just look around the league and some of the surprises we've seen with the quarterback position this year to understand how cruel this league can be to that position. And you just have to figure out a way to become consistent and continue growing. There's no question that the physical talents are there. There's no question that the drive is there, that Justin has all the intangibles to make this climb. But the climb still has to happen, right? And so that's what we're looking for next.
Is this sustainable? And if so, give me an example of someone that has been able to do this consistently at a high level where it works.
Well, I guess my question is, what's your worry, right? And then I'll answer the sustainability question.
I think he's concerned he gets hurt. He thinks that he when he's on the move, he doesn't take these big hits. And when you run 62 yards to the end zone, you don't get hit. He had like 3 runs where he got out of bounds. I think that's what you're worried about, right?
I think that you can only have so many designed runs, right? I mean, let's be honest. They've been able to,
and they only had about 5 the other day, so
right?
It wasn't a whole boatload of them.
But I think eventually what happens is no one thought Bo Jackson's career would end when he took that hit against Cincinnati, but it ended. It took one shot, boom, that's it. And this is what happens when this is not an elusive runner. This is a brilliant, speedy, straight line runner. He's exceptional. I can't remember another quarterback that runs like him. RG3 did it for a little bit, but not like Fields. People will point to Lamar Jackson, but he's more elusive. He spins, he slides. He's got that sense that Russell Wilson had when he was running with the Seahawks of being able to avoid that big shot. I just can't. I can't get into it after 3 games and say, boom, the answer is here. Yet it appears as though at least the city has the answer is here. That's it. You've seen everything you can see. And what I want to know is, behind closed doors, does Ryan Poles feels the same way the rest of the city does?
Look, we all have those friends, right? That you're out, you're having a really good night. Everybody's at the perfect buzz level. And it's like, 1 o'clock in the morning, it's time to start winding down. And then somebody shows up at the table with a tray of Jaeger bombs, right? And then everything gets haywire. And that's what some of the city is doing right now is they've brought the tray of Jaeger bombs over, and they're trying to get everybody to pound those and get into the party a little bit more. I think you're right with some of your concerns, Zach. I would also just say that you have to allow for growth, right? And that's growth of Justin as a passer, because I think he does have talents as a passer that will continue to improve and grow. And I think you have to allow for growth in coaching, where they're able to coach him. And we've seen this in the last month to minimize the shots that he's taken and to understand situation and time and score and down and distance and when to get out and when to fight for the extra yards. And so that's evolving. And so that can be sustainable if you use it smartly and you continue to use it wisely. The other thing is Justin's a big dude, right? And we've seen him take shots that would have knocked other quarterbacks out for 2 and 3 weeks. And what happens? Justin takes a deep breath, gets back up, and gets in there. And so I understand the concern, but when one of your foremost strengths is how damn tough you are, it isn't something that you just say, well, he is like all the other quarterbacks, because he's not. On that level, he has more toughness than a lot of guys that play that position. And it's really impressive. I remember when he came in to the league and in the pre-draft, somebody saying to me, look, like, this guy is the same size, height, weight as Eddie George, and he runs the same 40 time as Eddie George. Eddie George lasted a long time in the NFL as a running back. And so now you basically have Eddie George as your quarterback with the ability to throw the football. So there's a lot of things to like here. I'm with you in terms of, like, I'm not ready to draw grand conclusions after a 3-game uptick in sample size. Like, we've got, thankfully, for our own sake, 2 more months to watch this unfold and evolve, and then we'll see where we go. But I'm not as concerned about as you are about the